I'm Johnny. I'm a first-year master's student in the City Science group, and I'm here today to talk about urban delivery trends as well as this concept that we've been calling the last meter. So I'm curious, out of all of you, how many of you have ordered something from Amazon in the past week? All right. Okay. And I think maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and potentially just before the pandemic, that might not have been the case. So we've talked a lot, probably in this class, about trends, about urbanization, kind of the redesign of cities to be more geared towards humans. And then I'll kind of talk a bit more about the growth of on-demand delivery. And we've talked about on-demand mobility, but I think kind of a subsection of that can be the growth of how we now kind of consume things through e-commerce. So this is growing. We've said grow a lot, but that growth does have some kind of negative externalities, such as we need to get all of these goods into a city. We also need to distribute them, and our instruments of kind of distribution are things like trucks, that have a lot of emissions, congestion. They're dangerous. They're also, here was a study where they were looking at where fatalities were occurring in New York City, for example, and in Manhattan, over 72% were happening along truck routes. And so, there's something obviously dangerous between bikes and really big trucks and pedestrians all walking on the street. And so cities are reacting through so this additional congestion, danger, and other negative externalities by, this is actually on hold now, like the congestion pricing, but I definitely think that eventually it will kind of happen. And that kind of leaves us with this interesting future of where we can't really we have this kind of demand for things being delivered to our door, but not necessarily a great way of doing that. And I think in city science, we're kind of thinking about how we can kind of take this thing that has maybe a lot of negative externalities and think about, okay, maybe how can this be something that's actually good for a community from an economic, climate, and social perspective. And so there's been, I guess, a lot of research into these lightweight autonomous vehicles, and there's these different parts of it, such as moving people, parcels, food, and then utilities. And I think that some of the really challenging things, with, I guess, actually enabling lightweight autonomous vehicles to be, really impactful in cities is kind of the final stage of delivery. And we're seeing systems that are out there today that are, really cool, such as cargo bikes, even multi-echelon kind of, delivery systems where it's a truck that then, turns into, a bunch of these little, I guess, smaller pallets that then kind of get distributed through a city. But they all, are kind of facing this big bottleneck that is very easily observable when you actually look at a street. But I wanted to actually see if you could, kind of see what data was out there and also figure out, actually how much time was being spent and how many miles and all of that sort of stuff. And so Amazon did release a really cool data set that was actually intended for a last mile routing challenge so that people could kind of most optimally route the trucks. But I think that's also pretty interesting because that kind of shows where most of the focus is going. It's focused on actually kind of the driver miles, the time spent while driving, when we can see that actually more time is spent not just in the street, but also a ton of time is spent in the last meter. And what we define that as is kind of going from the street all the way to the front door. And so you could potentially have autonomous cars or autonomous bicycles, but they probably won't provide that much value or be economically viable until they can actually go all the way from the street to the front door. And we also gained some insights into kind of what your typical delivery looks like. And it feels kind of like an unbundling because the average package, or I guess the number of packages per delivery is really low, right? So this is like you ordering your toothbrush, and when everyone raised their hand, that, kind of that type of ordering may be replacing things that we used to do, such as going to a store, fill up a car and kind of do a bulk purchasing of items, which definitely can be more efficient in some cases. So with a lot of that in mind, also some kind of like us kind of looking into the actual package sizes and thinking, kind of noticing that a lot of these packages are really just like envelopes and really, really small things. And so when it comes to looking at the types of vehicles that might be able to actually solve this problem, maybe they could solve a lot of this problem and not be that large, right? So maybe we could kind of think small. So this is a fun little diagram thinking that, we're not really focused on trucks or kind of things like that, but we're thinking about kind of the last phase of delivery that happens within cities, and maybe thinking kind of further into the future about, I don't know, little Michael mentioned like animals. I don't know, we are thinking about animals and little ecosystems of helper robots and things that might enable autonomous delivery. So in kind of looking at what's actually out there and how people are solving the last meter in industry and in research, there are kind of a lot of different proposals out there. Nothing really, I would say, that's totally working in an urban area that kind of falls into these three big categories. Some that are utilizing existing infrastructure. A lot of the world was designed for things with legs, so legged quadrupeds and other sorts of robots of that such. Things that can bypass infrastructure, right? I don't know, people have fences and people might have stairs, but there's vehicles that could potentially fly over things, as well as building new infrastructure, right? Mailboxes that are specifically designed to receive packages from autonomous vehicles, like smart mailboxes and I don't know, parcel centers. So I've been kind of playing around with some ideas. One was, I started really interested, I guess in the group, really interested in airships, and kind of thinking about having an airship that might be soft and kind of friendly and cuddly, that could actually take your package all the way from the PEV to the front door. This is an idea, from Naroa, like what if the package itself moved, or kind of drones that are able to grip things. I think that flying in a city is going to be really difficult, and so maybe that's far further out. And so I've been focused on things that are probably a bit more feasible and more near term, and might have more of an impact. And so for Members Week, we wanted to do a demo where we kind of showcased our vision of the future. And so kind of imagining that you're going from kind of text instructions of, hey, can you leave this package behind the fence or to the left of the front door? And then we were able to use one of the Boston Dynamics spots to show what it would be like to deliver a package. And it had this really cool external manipulator, or the arm, to go and deliver the package. There was also like a crowd of like 30 people behind the camera, which was crazy, of people just like looking at this dog. So there it goes. This is Kent's house. And us running some computer vision to identify the door and the location of where the robot should put the package, a nice smooth delivery, and let them know it's there. All right, and now Kent has his sushi. And then there is a really cute photo. And yeah, so thinking, let's see if I can go to the next slide. There we go. So towards future research, I'm really interested in kind of the last meter and thinking about how this bottleneck can be solved and also be solved in a positive way for cities. And I look forward to building some weird robots and seeing where that takes me. So yeah, thank you.